Welcome to the Mindfully Gay podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jerry.
Today we're talking about faith, shame, healing, and the journey so many queer people experience when trying to reconcile spirituality with identity. Whether you've experienced religious trauma, questioned your beliefs, or discovered a new spiritual path after coming out, we hope this conversation reminds you that you are worthy of love, belonging, and peace exactly as you are.
Let's begin. Hello, welcome to the Mindfully Gay podcast. I am Jerry.
And I'm John.
And we are coming to you from Sandy, Utah, which is not too far from Salt Lake City.
That's right, where I live.
And it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded.
Right.
It's the beginning of spring and summer, and we've had a lot of obligations, but we're looking forward to chatting with you today. One thing that's happened is we have become aware of our international audience.
Yeah.
I posted something on social media asking where people were viewing us from, and we heard from Canada, Ecuador, Africa, Brazil, lots of places throughout the United States. And what I think is interesting is when you and I were dreaming this up, and Nick was a part of that, we thought, let's do something for the guys in Utah.
Exactly.
Well, apparently nobody in Utah listens to us because nobody responded from Utah. But it was really very exciting. And so we welcome your viewership and hope that whatever we're talking about is relevant for your life. I think today's subject is a byproduct of hearing from someone in a country where, I almost said Mormonism, in a country where being gay is still very threatening and under a lot of oppression.
Yeah.
And it got us thinking in reference to some other comments that maybe today we should spend some time talking about the intersections of religion and sexual orientation and gender expression and gender. And partly between the comments from the people who are outside the United States, but also we recognize, I just happened to be listening to a podcast in which there was some questions about how people who identify as devoutly religious should handle their coming out process and counsel that they have received. And so we thought, let's talk about this subject. And we've talked about this before, but let's see where today takes us.
Right. It's fascinating. I want to go back to that comment from the gentleman across the seas, and one, just to acknowledge that individual and thank you for listening, and for all those who are listening from kind of all over the world, and in particular that comment about how it is unsafe for them to be who they really are, and it's quite remarkable, and it's quite touching for me too that they've somehow found us and found our podcast and find that what we're talking about is encouraging and inspiring to them, to help them in some way to be themselves, even though they're in a climate where being authentic and true to themselves is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And just to kind of scale it back, I guess, or maybe dig a little deeper, it is interesting. I'm just thinking about my own coming out process, and maybe this is true for others, where there's a lot of mixed messages, especially when you're looking at like religious, if you come from a religious background like I do. I grew up Catholic, and just having that influence over someone's coming out experience. And one that I kind of got, and it was kind of a mix with family and religion and all sorts of things, but it was certainly a mixed message, and a mixed message of it's okay to be who you are, but don't tell anybody. And that makes sense, doesn't it, Jerry?
I'm Italian.
Shh, right.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell anybody. I'm black. Don't tell anybody.
Are you? Oh. When did that happen?
When did that happen, right?
Well, I'm glad you feel safe in coming out.
Well, thank you. I just, I feel comfortable here with you. And
Yeah. Do you know, if I dive deep back 100 years, because at one point in my life, we'll say in the 80s, when some of our viewers weren't born yet, but in the 80s, I was incredibly committed Mormon. I was in the military, so that was in 82 to 86. And I was also I was in the military and very conscious of my sexual attraction and that I was gay, but I was very much in the closet. And that's when I took this deep dive into religion, into Mormonism, which is interesting because in the context of Mormonism, I found myself more profoundly in the closet because I would hear the sermons and the lessons, and definitely sex outside the bounds of marriage was seen as evil. And I was not sexually active until I came out, but I knew where my sexuality was. And so I felt like I was congruent with the laws of chastity, which meant no sex outside of marriage. And so what that did is it fortified the idea that I could somehow, through faith, change my sexual orientation. And even the ecclesiastical leaders I talked to back then said, in fact, when I got legally married to a woman,
right,
and I was very worried about that because I thought, I'm not going to be very good in the honeymoon. And both of my ecclesiastical leaders, their first question is, had I done anything sexually? No. Then the second response was that I really didn't know what I was talking about. And that once I got married and had heterosexual sex, that all would be revealed. That basically that's what was going to cure me, was getting married and having sex. Which just to let you know, it didn't work.
FYI.
In fact, on my honeymoon, I remember laying in bed feeling terrible. Because I was so emotionally invested in the idea that I would now have heterosexual feelings. And I just did not.
And you didn't.
And I had gone to some pretty severe extremes. Like when I was a missionary, I was like militant missionary. My mission companions didn't like me because every rule was critical.
You were all in.
Yeah. And so my idea is that faith was somehow going to bring me back into this sense of straight wholeness.
Right. And was that your intention? Was that your goal as you kind of committed to yourself, I'm going to go this direction, kind of go this Mormon route? Was that kind of the goal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it was an obsession. And it wasn't why I got involved in my religion, but it became this. And what's interesting is the kickback was when I didn't feel like I was congruent with the teachings of the church, the criticism I directed towards myself. I wasn't faithful enough. I wasn't worthy enough. I wasn't trying hard enough.
I see.
And at one point, I had read this, a church leader had talked about the power of fasting without food and water. So I thought, I will fast food until I become straight.
Mm-hmm.
So, point of reference, I'm about 203 pounds today. When I discharged from the military, I weighed 123 pounds.
Wow.
And what was happening, I got reassigned to a desk job because I was randomly passing out on my post.
No way.
And everyone thought I had an eating disorder. It's like, no, I was committed.
Yeah, you were abiding by the.
Yeah. And I, in sharing that story as a therapist, like here in Utah, I haven't heard anyone do the fasting thing, but certainly people who get locked into their way of being socialized about how to see themselves is through a deficit lens. There's something wrong with you. This is Mormonism calls it a sin against nature.
Wow.
And in the miracle of forgiveness, one of the church prophets even suggested that it would be better that a millstone be hung around your neck and tossed into the river than to commit the sin.
Wow.
And there's some documentation of some Mormon folks who have committed suicide because they thought that was a better option than to be gay.
Wow. Wow.
And so, yeah, how do we get seduced that this? I always think it's interesting that religion teaches have a personal relationship with God, but do it our way. It's like, there's something, right? So God is telling me to be who I am, and you're telling me not to say anything about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just again, going back to that, the mixed messaging and where to go. I mean, it's so dichotomous. It's like you have to go either full on one way or like what you did, it sounds like, okay, I'm going to fully commit to this way of living in order to shift, change, and have that miracle of God come upon me to be straight and to fit in and to be fully accepted as a person in the world and certainly a child of God, right?
Yeah.
It is quite interesting, just that seduction and how we are still seduced by the mixed message. Because I know I'm just thinking about my personal journey with this as well. I think there was a part of me that was like I wanted to be myself. I was young when I came out, though. When I came out publicly, I was around 19, and at 19 you think you know everything, and so I felt like I really did know myself and wanted to kind of be out there. And so when I came out publicly, the kickback was, well, I thought I would just be accepted. But the kickback was, it's okay to be what you are, but don't tell anybody. And out of fear, mostly out of fear, but I want to use the word respect. I said okay. I said okay to that because I think the fear was that I'd be ostracized if I didn't abide by that rule or idea or suggestion. Don't tell anybody, then something grave would happen to me. And my fear was I would just be kicked to the curbside. That was my fear as this young person. And so I agreed to that, don't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, okay. And I lived like that for a while until I couldn't anymore, because it was eating me alive. Mm-hmm. It was eating me from the inside out, where I think out of that fear of being kicked to the curbside, it developed more into a fear of just being myself and being authentic. And I questioned everything that I did. I scrutinized myself like every moment. Like, am I going to be found out if I say this way with this tone of voice, or wear this sweater of this color, whatever it, it could be anything. I scrutinized, thinking, how will someone perceive this? And will they see me as gay? And I get kicked to the curbside. And so because of that fear, I mean, if you could see my body right now, I'm tensing up because I think that's what was happening on the inside of me. I just became this tense ball of energy where I could not free myself. And I think a lot of people live like that. And either they know that feeling and can feel that tightness, that bound up kind of feeling, or they see that this is just normal. This is just the way that I am and the way that I'm going to feel, and just kind of go along with it and just try to abide by the rulings of their church, their religion, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. Just, yeah.
You were, when did you come to Utah?
I came in 94.
Okay. Because as you were talking about your journey, and, I came out, I don't know, let's see, 92 to 94. I probably came out at the same time you came here. Because I was in graduate school between 92 and 94, and that's when I came out. But I'm thinking about that guy in Africa. Mm-hmm. And some of the other comments we've heard from people coming from very religiously oppressive places. I was telling you, I used to go to Bermuda all the time, and the Bermudians were always, because I'm very out and matter of fact about when I was going to Bermuda.
Right.
And they dared to ask me to tone it down.
Like, excuse me?
And their argument was that people wouldn't understand. And I was like, yeah, I don't play that game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm who I am, and I'm not going to apologize for how I show up or present in the world. Mm-hmm. But I began to study kind of like the climate in Bermuda for gay folks.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because, again, it was a religious conservative voice and influence that seemed to allow folks to come out and to do what they needed to do. So we were talking about Bermuda, and that it was kind of like this religious evangelical kind of influence on the government. And what's interesting is that sense of these other voices who are seeking to define, contain, manage who we are. And then I compare that, like, in the 90s and early 2000s, right? We had a lot of that here in Utah.
We did.
And there were a couple of activists who seemed to be pretty effective at breaking through those barriers. I know part of what I became involved in, and with some other people, was actually spending time with the conservative religious voices. And not in that angry, how could you think this way about us kind of tone.
Right.
But really trying to focus on, what do we share in common?
Love that.
What is it that we share?
Mm-hmm.
I may not identify as a Christian, but I do identify with faith. Mm-hmm. I do identify with devotion, commitment. I don't want anyone defining how I do things spiritually. And I think that was a particular anxiety that I heard from a lot of our religious conservative people is, if we change the laws, how can I hate you? No. How can I believe in the idea that you're not okay? But what's interesting is in building the tabletop conversations, and as they got to know us, I remember in 2013 when Bruce and I had a wedding ceremony, right? I invited a lot of people to that table, which is interesting. Two of them just brought flowers and left because they respected the relationship, but they couldn't be there.
Yeah.
But a couple of them showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had seen our wedding, well, you were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a very eclectic group of people.
It was, yeah.
And I remember at one point we were standing up there doing the vows, and I looked out and I saw a couple of them, and man, their heads were above the crowd, and they were just like
just intrigued by it all, right?
Yeah. And so I wonder if sometimes the divide isn't somehow, I don't want to piss people off, but I'm just going to say this. What if it's self-perpetuated? What if in our assumptions of rejection and denial, we are perpetuating by withdrawing, afraid to show up, afraid to be at the table? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so we almost insist upon this insulation from each other when what happens when we show up with the willingness to witness and hear and maybe even engage at an empathetic level with each other?
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
Definitely truth to that. That I think we get caught up in the cycle of, of that dual languaging of, that mixed messaging where accept me, but we still perpetuate, don't mess with me kind of a thing. And so we add to that cycle where if we broke through that and like you said, come to the table with a sense of not trying to reinforce the divide between us and among us, but what links us and brings us together. If we interject that and offer that and share that, that's hard to resist because that's attractive. That's what brings people in. It's so easy, and we're seeing it, in many factions, how it's easy to push away, and especially, for me, it kind of comes down to if you don't understand something, then it's easier to criticize it. If you just don't understand it, you criticize it, and so it's separate from you, it's different from you, and I can put a label on it and chastise it. But when it's something that's relevant and we all can relate to, like love and security and support and family and neighbors and things like that, then that's hard to dispute. And if we use that part of our magic to offer that into the circle, then the person who is trying to chastise and put us down and make us an other, it is, they're caught in a conundrum.
Yeah, because I like you. How am I supposed to hate you?
Yeah.
But see, I think what encouraged me to take that approach was, I think when I was religiously engaged, again, the socialization was to see myself as lesser than.
Yeah.
To see myself as deficient. And I was drawn into that.
Right. We get caught up into that cycle.
And so I was constantly trying to find a solution when there wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And when I fully was able to embrace myself, I did it unapologetically and as a matter of fact. Right? I also became very conscious of, again, these native principles that somewhere in the scope of who I was. I mean, think about how I just talked about how I was socialized and how you were socialized to see yourself through a Christian lens, right? And then you look at how before colonial times, how queer people were kind of nurtured in native communities, right? If you were my father and you suspected that I was on that trajectory, right, you would take me to the elders.
Mm-hmm.
You would take me to people who would teach me how to honor that part of myself.
Yes. To enhance, to enlighten, to bring that to the surface rather than to suppress it.
Yeah, to develop that magic.
Yes.
And it's interesting, part of the magic was like with the Hopi, there is a well-known two-spirited ambassador by the name of Weewa. And the reason they were chosen to be an ambassador is because they walked between those worlds. And the Hopi said, this is the best person we have because they can walk between worlds.
Yeah.
And, and so I was thinking about that concept of being the bridge builder.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I'm going to show up and not, I don't have to compromise who I am by showing up and having a conversation from the place of help me genuinely understand where you're coming from. And typically, and these were like significant church leaders and community leaders in the religion. And most of them could not really center on why they really felt that way, other than they were told.
Mm-hmm.
That work didn't necessarily absolve anything, but for instance, that religion's social service arm took conversion therapy off the menu.
Right. Yeah.
Through that kind of advocacy.
Exactly.
It wasn't just me, there was a group of us, but because we all showed up in that way, right? And because we were having those critical, crucial conversations, doors opened, progress was made, and eventually that seed led to Utah, eventually a Republican state, of banning conversion therapy for minors.
Right. Yeah. I think when you enter into the circle, into the conversation with that attitude and that perspective, I'm coming in authentically, and I'm coming in with this idea and goal to bridge the gap rather than continue the separation and make that a deeper chasm. When the other can't defend their perspective anymore, then those walls crumble.
Yeah.
And that's why those things like a conversion therapy just can't exist anymore, because they can't defend it anymore.
Yeah.
and I think that's the power of our magic. If we are going in with that kind of attitude, especially, to back up, because you certainly, you have evolved as a human being, and knowing how to step into yourself as this spiritual, mindful, gay man, and can live into that fullness of that, and that help shed, some of those old stories about, not being good enough and not accepted and all of that. And when you're able to bring that all to like I keep saying, the table or the circle of all of this, if we all can do that, if we can find that part of ourselves that can shift from that lack of self-acceptance into a fuller expression of self, and we show up like that, the power and the magic from that is just remarkable.
Yeah. So I wonder about our listeners who live in countries where they feel that intense oppression. I think even in Africa, there are places where being gay is illegal.
It's illegal, and you can be, probably imprisoned or killed. I don't know.
And I'm making an assumption that the catalyst to those type of rules is religion.
It's religious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
nature.
so I think this is where I want to reach out to listeners, especially people in these other countries, is I wish I can go back to our history. I have not lived where being gay wasn't illegal, but gay sex was. Remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know that I was ever terribly conscious or overwhelmed with the idea that somebody was going to bust into my bedroom. And could still go to pride festivals. And we did so publicly with the potential threat of feeling ostracized or marginalized. And yet I don't know what it would be like to grow up in a country or to live in a country where that religious oppression has become legitimized through law.
Yeah, through law, and it's very significant and real.
Yeah.
It's very real, and if you don't, and you don't test it because you will be.
Yeah. Like I would love to hear from some of our listeners. Like I would love to have, I don't know that we could have them as a guest, but if they felt like they had the courage to maybe have their voices on the podcast, I would love to have a conversation with them to understand what the circumstances are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm encouraged that they found the podcast
Yeah.
and find some nurturing there.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to keep nurturing you.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm sitting here and feeling underqualified to say, here's what you could do.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is maybe have faith, have trust, know that your country is pretty marginalized in the scope of the world, where at least some layer of acceptance and understanding has been put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's moments of regression, like even here in the United States, right? There's a lot of queer folks who are feeling persecuted.
Very much so.
And definitely marginalized systematically, but November, we're going to change that.
We're going to change that.
So I want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I know there are still people, if let's just stick with Utah for a minute and let people kind of translate outside of Utah. Like, how do we encourage or support queer people of faith? I think one thing I've noticed is how many people have been raised and nurtured through faith, religion, and then they come out, and not only do they step outside of that, but now they're angry. Now they're bitter. And now, right, we've even had that, we've seen that reflected when we did Queer Spirit. The word spirit was very triggering for people.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do Mindfully Gay. And I still think there's some trigger there about somehow religion or spirituality is no longer for me. And I'm thinking, we've done a couple of lodges actually where, we asked people to pray. I remember one time we did it and someone said, "Oh my God, I haven't prayed in 20 years."
Wow.
And they found it so refreshing.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah.
So I don't know. How do we talk to the angry religious person?
Well, it's reminding me of kind of the stages of grief where, when you lose something, one of the stages is anger, right? So it feels like that's going to be a normal process. That's going to be a normal, reaction to, leaving a church or being ostracized or, kicked out of the church, for example. There's going to be some anger. Yes. And then finding, just as the gentleman in Africa and people around the world and locally for sure who are listening to the show, they're finding a sense of nurturing, commonality, welcoming, a new perspective. an invitation to something maybe they didn't really think about, or just maybe got tucked away somewhere, and we're just bringing it to the surface. And so to honor, I think, all the reactions, even the anger, to honor that's normal. It's okay. And to support a person through that. And also, I think, lay out, what we've been doing. Here's some ways to also look at yourself and be with yourself and be authentic and true and okay with yourself. I think what we're offering people are just more, we may not have the solution, but here are some ideas on ways to start opening potential doors for themselves. I find it very helpful, even in that anger, you're going to be pointing the finger at organizations or people and standards and things like that. Okay. And find people, a person, a group, whatever, that are going to hold you. They're going to support you and be on your side. Find your allies. They may be gay, they may be straight, they may be women. It could be anybody, but who's on your side? Who's going to pick you up and carry you and hug you and all those kinds of things? Find those people. And if it's this podcast, then great. Maybe we're holding someone's hand, even though it may be across the world.
Come to a retreat.
But start somewhere. Start there. Find those that can align with you, who can be on your side.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions that I wanted to kind of bring up as a potential topic, like, who squashed your magic, but who lifted you up? If you had a hard coming out, or if you live in a place where you just can't be yourself, what's the other side of that? Is there a person? Is there a podcast? Is there a book? Is there something that you can turn to that helps you along the way, that gets you through that day, gets you through that moment?
Yeah. One thing I try to do when I work with clients and people who are stuck is, again, I don't know what this is about human behavior, but we get seduced at the idea that there is someone above us that knows better for us, right? My bishop, my preacher, my priest, right? That somehow somebody else has the solution for me or the guidance for me that I'm missing. So much so that we let these people, typically men, define our relationship with God, faith, and spirit.
Yes.
And so I do think it's ironic that we talk about this personal relationship with God, but here's the rules. And then I think if we're talking about an omnipotent being that is all-knowing, all-loving, all everything,
yes,
why do we continue to shackle him or her or them with our limited ways of looking at things? And one philosophy that got me through my faith crisis is I kept thinking, ultimately, maybe we are God's gift to the Christian.
Hello.
Because maybe our love is the higher law of love.
Hello.
Because we don't let gender necessarily define how and who we love.
Yeah.
We don't, right? We don't hold ourselves restrictive in that way. And maybe that is a higher law. And I will propose these ideas with the idea of, how do you experience this? How do you feel about it? When you separate the institution of religion, which is a terrible temple for spirituality. Because spirituality, I mean, Do you remember that one yoga class I did with you? And I called you and I'm like, oh my God, I saw Jesus. Right? But to me, that was a moment of body, mind, spirit that had found an alignment, and it was powerful.
Yeah.
And I find that when I'm hiking,
Mm-hmm.
when I look at nature, when I sit in my lodge, even when I've had really profound struggles, and I just allow the voice of the ancestors to nurture me, that is where I have found my spirituality and my connectedness. But we are programmed, we believe that we have to reach out to someone else to give us those answers.
To give us the answers. Yeah.
Melodoma Somé, who was one of our mentors, who was a shaman from Africa.
Yeah.
He was in this gathering of spiritual leaders. Do you remember this?
You told me about this.
Yeah. He was in a gathering with spiritual leaders, and they were talking about the dilemma of the gays and lesbians. And he finally speaks up and he goes, you guys call yourself intellectual, you call yourself smarter than the rest of us, more faithful than the rest of us, but look at how you're treating your people. Your gay and lesbian people. And he goes, that doesn't make sense. Like, he could not find the congruency between their faith and their connection to God and how they were treating people.
Yes.
And then the other part of that is he said, your philosophies endorse this idea that I have to reach out to your priests and ministers to find God. And he reached down and he touched the earth and he goes, and here I can be in relationship with it right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can find my answers here.
Right here. Yeah.
And I thought, that was a pretty profound observation.
It is, and it's declarations like that going back to those walls that are built, and these constructs, and it's declarations like that start to put holes in those walls, and they begin to crumble.
Yeah. And
when there's more of that, yeah, those walls will just continue to fall.
Right. Yeah. So in essence, what Melodoma and lots of other people I've talked to have said, and what I'm going to say is, somewhere in our practices, we can find the voice of God within us. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that voice is probably much more loving and nurturing than what anyone else is going to tell you. And we've been socialized to follow the leader as opposed to finding the medicine from within.
Totally agree. And
thank you for joining.
Right. And I hope people are really hearing this, because I've known you for a long time, and your journey has been those things. It's been these opportunities and connections of finding and feeling spirit outside of the walls and structures of the Mormon Church or Catholic Church or whatever.
Yeah.
But in nature, in the fire, in pipe ceremony, in people, and in your narrative, your construct shifted, where those things just broke away. Those walls and obstacles broke away, and you emerged. Your authenticity, your truth emerged. And so that allows you, Jerry, to go into a room and just be yourself and not have to, ask for permission to be yourself. And I think, that's part of the invitation to our listeners out there too. Are you challenging the system? Are you just taking everyone's word for it? Are you listening to the priests and your bishops and all of that and just taking it as truth? Or are you putting a question mark on it and maybe challenging that and maybe experiencing, it's like, I don't understand what you do, Jerry, in these sweat lodges. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to check it out. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious and just see what's up. I think it's that, where people just put a crack in that wall
Yeah.
and see what happens to your perspective on something, especially something like religion, because you can find spirituality in many ways.
Yeah.
And what I think, you said this, and I see the truth in it. The God is in you. The Spirit is in you. You don't have to. You may not necessarily get the answer from the external. The answer is already in you.
What is it you say at the end of your yoga classes?
The word is namaste. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
We say namaste, and it's a greeting. It's like shalom. It's aloha.
But what does it mean?
But what is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it has a deeper meaning, just like shalom and aloha have a deeper meaning. And so the way that I've interpreted it is, I see the light in me in the light in you. Or the light in me sees the light in you.
Yeah.
And we can say that in many ways. I see the God in me sees the God in you, but I say light. And it's that. The Spirit in me sees the Spirit in you. It's just that grander realm of existence that goes beyond the physical that we're acknowledging.
Yeah.
This is connected to you.
I think I love that word. Every time we finish the class, like, namaste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you can feel it.
You feel it.
As you were talking, I like to take people into nature, especially when they're all discombobulated.
Yeah.
Right? But nature is a powerful place to learn how to exist. I've yet to see a pine tree try to replicate an elm tree.
Right.
I don't see the chipmunk trying to figure out how to be the cougar.
Right.
Right? Like, everyone kind of knows their place, coexist, live within that cycle of life. But there's not a question about the who or what you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. To get the answers,
it takes higher intelligence to fuck it up.
We've messed it up.
I guess we're assuming it's higher intelligence. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, we question that. But yeah, you're right. It's if you want to get a new perspective and learn and understand how you could be, go to nature.
Yeah,
go to nature. I had 2 dogs, and I learned so much from my 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Right? Just having animals in the home, I learned so much. One was just persistence and perseverance.
Yeah.
From my little dog.
Yeah.
and even just not even worrying about the world, that they get bumped or something happens to them, they shake it off.
Yeah.
And they can move on.
Do you remember that article I wrote about Maya when she was getting old?
Oh, yeah.
So we had this dog. She lived to
Yes.
16,
Yes.
and Maya was an amazing creature.
So-
Maybe I can find it and we can put it on the website.
Oh, I love it.
But I basically, as she was getting older, I think Bruce and I were just preparing for the inevitable.
Yeah.
But as she got older, she would take lots of naps. Every once in a while, she'd come over. She wanted some reassurance, some love.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, if the other dogs got a little rowdy, she'd sit up and chew them out, and then she'd lay back down.
Yeah.
But the article was basically what she taught me about aging and even getting to the threshold of death.
Wow.
And it was very powerful. And I know the local gay paper printed it in one of their pet editions. I'll see if I can find it.
Oh,
we
I
can
love
post it somewhere.
I love that.
But the animal kingdom, right? There's a lot to learn if we just listen. And I've never seen a creature have a crisis of faith.
Really?
Well, sometimes my dogs have a crisis of faith if dinner's late. It's like, oh my gosh, you look destitute. So you know, I would like to ask a couple of questions that I
Yeah.
hope we can create some dialogue online about.
Mm.
And one is, what have you done, or what do you do today
Yeah.
that helps restore your sense of spirituality and faith, independent of religion? And maybe even if you were raised in a highly religious environment, how were you able to grow beyond that? I'd be really curious about that.
Yeah, or just navigate through that. If it's
Yeah.
still very much a part of your culture and surroundings, how do
Right.
you navigate through
How do you
that?
navigate it?
Yeah.
And then I'm very curious about those who live in countries where there are systems of oppression like this. What are your coping strategies?
Right.
Because I think whatever you might share, maybe it's coming from Africa, but maybe people from the Middle East could borrow from that.
Yeah.
Maybe people from Utah could borrow from it.
Exactly, right.
So how do you navigate those challenges? How do you come to celebrate who you are in the world that doesn't want to acknowledge that you exist? So those are two questions we'll create some reels out of.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I'm exhausted. Praise Jesus.
There's so much there. I mean, there's so much in this conversation. We can certainly just continue this conversation, but it gets us thinking. This is why I really like doing this podcast.
I told someone the podcast is really John and I doing therapy.
We're just doing. I know,
you get to listen.
It's very therapeutic for us.
I feel so much better. Now that I know you're Black.
Right. But there's something about, I think, this dynamic that I think could easily, maybe not easily, but could possibly be replicated. Is there someone you can talk to openly about this stuff, even if it's things you really don't understand very well or you have questions about? Who can you talk to about this? Start the conversation, have a conversation. I know there's a listener who used to live in Utah but lives somewhere else now, and has reached out to me and has been compelled to start that conversation. It's like, I've been listening to your podcast, John, and it's resonated in me in a certain way where I want to share this with other people and start that conversation to really elevate and enlighten folks who are just feeling that compression and suppression and feeling confounded by their surroundings, whether it's religion or politics or whatever. You felt compelled, felt moved.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we can do. That's part of the magic I think we possess. But it can start with a conversation in the kitchen.
I really believe, and I'm kind of hearing this, like we got a comment from somebody who said, wow, it's nice to hear us get into the issues. Imagine if we had more kitchen table conversations like these amongst ourselves, we could potentially evolutionize our culture. And continue to celebrate what we celebrate. But I've always had this, when I first started working with Clyde and some of the other elders, I've always kind of held on to this vision that I would love to see our queer community fully embrace its magic, its medicine. We have a relevant place in the world. And it's time for us to get off the sidelines and let people know what that magic is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more than just doing your hair.
Or having a lovely flower arrangement.
Don't push it. So we want to thank you for joining us and look forward to your comments and your feedback. You can find our website at mindfullygay.com. You can find us on Instagram, mindfully_gay. You can find us on TikTok. Guess what? Mindfully Gay. You can find us on YouTube by what?
The Mindfully Gay podcast.
Oh, a twist. We're on Facebook. None of it. We're not marketers. We're not social media engineers. We do the best that we can.
Yeah.
And I do know we're very encouraged to get more active when we, like the engagement we got. It's like, wow, let's get on this. And we started coming up with ideas. So please engage us, feed us, and we will do our best to feed you back.
Absolutely. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Mindfully Gay podcast.
Adios.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope today's conversation encourages you to trust your own journey and reminds you that your authenticity is never something to apologize for.
If this episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your story. Connect with us on Instagram at mindfully_gay, join the conversation on TikTok at mindfullygay, and visit mindfullygay.com to learn about ways to connect with our growing community.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review the Mindfully Gay podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Your ratings help more people discover these conversations and become part of our community.
Until next time, keep living with intention, keep leading with compassion, and remember, you never have to choose between your truth and your humanity. Take good care of yourself.